Well, okay. Hello. So, let us begin with our first topic. In this, we will be starting a lecture series on quantum information theory with its applications to quantum thermodynamics and quantum computation. So, let us see. So, before starting this topic, I think everyone can see the writing, or let me know in the comments below. So, I will assume that quantum mechanics and linear algebra is known, although there will be some topics like polar value decomposition, or you have those various topics regarding density operators and things like that that will be cleared as the course progresses. So before understanding how quantum information theory works, uh, let's look at some different views or perspectives. So uh, so we have classical world, we have quantum world. So and we always know that classical world is can be derived from the quantum world, or quantum world in some sense is more fundamental, but you see, as the history throughout the history you will see, we always go from classical to quantum. Like, it's very difficult to directly formulate our quantum theories, so we use classical theories to guide us how to build that quantum theory. So even in case of, like, I've chosen one of the example, like it's the case of you have quantum field theory. So it proceeds via, in classical field theories you have your Poisson brackets, and you don't have definitely any operator function, rather smooth functions. Well, and from that you basically go to in quantum field theory you replace that by your uh, Lie algebra brackets for the underlying Lie representation of whichever group action you have, and then you put hats on, right? You put your hats over your operators. This process, is called canonical quantization. So um, there is one more process of going from here to here by path integral approach, but we will not discuss all those things. So this canonical quantization, it's not quite sure why does this works or something like that. But the point is, what is very sure is that from quantum to classical world, you proceed via noise. We will see what noise is actually. You proceed via some noise decoherence, and there will be certain very interesting situations we will further see. Like, you have superpositions in the quantum world, but these superposition gets damped out, or they die out, and everything becomes very much classical in the limit where you say that there is randomness, which is one of the way of quantifying noise. We will see that it is quantified in a different way. So okay, so moving on, this is one of the thing. There is one more thing, is that we all know about thermodynamics. Like, thermodynamics has been there. It's a very old field. Carnot, Clausius, and many more. Like you can think of. Um, so they have contributed significantly to this field. So I have written the 4 laws of so I have written the 4 laws of thermodynamics in a mathematical way. The 0th law of thermodynamics states conditions of how, if 2 states are in thermal equilibrium with a third system, they are in thermal equilibrium with each other. In fact, the 0th law postulates presence of function. This is the state function. The 0th law postulates the presence of such functions, and so that's the 0th law. Then you have the first law, which is a condition of energy conservation. You have the second law, which in turn defines entropy as a reversible process, irreversible process, and all those things. And then you have the third law. So you see, the third law is very significant in the sense of the discussion. And that's because as T tends to 0, where T is the temperature, so the thermal wavelength that we have associated to the particle, it tends to the quantum region. It becomes smaller than the de Broglie wavelength of the particle. So this the third law is a very significant law in the sense that it is very modern, and we will see that in quantum thermodynamics the law gets slightly changed, but that will come at the very end of the course. So from thermodynamics, you see, similarly, as I said, from classical you deduce something about quantum. So similarly, from thermodynamics, which was created first, you somehow went one scale, many scales smaller. You went to from understanding how heat engines and all those things work to how a collection of atoms, like a collection of atoms work. But still here you have a large collection of atoms. I mean, the point is that statistical mechanics produces thermodynamics, but in large scale limit. So it's mainly due to a law of large numbers and the central limit theorems and things like that. But okay, that's not the discussion, a point of discussion. So basically in statistical mechanics, you have your microcanonical ensemble, you have your microstates, which quantifies the entropy as kb ln, the number of microstates that your system has. And then you have canonical ensemble, which and grand canonical, both are one of the significant one of the significant function to look at in these two ensemble is the partition function. So the partition function, or commonly denoted by Z, once you know the partition function, we know the entire physics, basically the statistical physics of the of any system. So the partition function we know is defined like that. Then one more quantity that is of importance in statistical mechanics is the Helmholtz free energy. So the Helmholtz free energy is somehow, if you remember, like you have your df. So if your f is u minus ts, your df is du minus. Now you can write du minus tds as minus pdv minus sdt using this equation basically. So this is equal to that. So you can see from here that f is a function of v and t, whereas u is a function of v and s. So here I am not regarding the number of particles as a variable. So you see, from the u, which is the internal energy, you reach to f, a new function via Legendre transform, which you might have heard of, by transforming along this s variable to t variable. So but anyway, so f is a quantity which is of importance because particularly delta f for any system, delta f to be less than equal to 0, and delta s to be less than equal to 0 suggest that how will the system evolve, will there be any transition possible or not. So suppose, like, in one sense it quantifies, so this thing, it quantifies the work the work that can be extracted or supplied. So it basically quantifies the work that can be extracted or supplied. So now, why I am discussing all this, one of the important point is that as you go small scale, like I'm not talking about the large scales where these law of large numbers and randomness will rule out, and the variance will decrease, like 1 over square root of n and all those things. I'm really talking about scales where, like, there is a single atom or you have two interacting atoms. In those scales, these laws are not sufficient. I mean, obviously that's quite obvious, that because the law was created to render thermodynamics, not to render quantum thermodynamics. So in this scale, what is needed is really quantum thermodynamics, which comes with a set of newly established functions. I mean, these functions are based on operators. Like you have your von Neumann entropy, S of rho, which is like minus trace of rho ln rho. We will see what rho is. Basically, this rho is called a density function. Or you have these density functions. Further, then you have topics in linear algebra which are of quite discussion nowadays. It's based on majorization concept. So this, you see, I have written here. So this sign is of majorization. We will hopefully see what that will be at the end of the series. And then you have the functions that I was discussing about, the Helmholtz free energy and the entropy. They get replaced by a family of infinite functions. They are called Rayleigh entropies or Rayleigh Helmholtz free energies. We have to discuss on how that is quantified or something like that. Then you have several interesting features as you go small scale. You have features of quantum entanglement, developing correlations. Then you have superpositions, the obvious thing, which is a point, like entire quantum mechanics is obviously based in superpositions. Then you have various kind of quantum gates. You have various kind of quantum operation, how you couple them with environments. We will see all of this in detail. So this is one of the way to motivate, basically, to say that really quantum information theory, or to be precise, the literature of quantum information theory paves its way, or affects various factors. Like it affects quantum thermodynamics. It also plays a important part in conformal field theories. You have ADZ, ZFT correspondence and those things like that. We will not go in that much of detail. But well, I think that's it for the first lecture. We will see how the course progresses. Well, thank you.